"Captain, unidentified vessel approaching from Sector 7, called out Navigation Officer Kim from his station. It's massive." Jin moved closer to the screen, her calm expression masking the spike of adrenaline. After 15 years, in space, this was the moment every explorer both dreamed of and feared. First contact with an advanced alien civilization. "Yellow alert. Shields at 40%. Defensive posture only," she ordered. "Let's not appear threatening, but let's not be foolish either." The object on their sensors grew clearer as it approached. The alien vessel was indeed enormous, at least 20 times the size of the horizon. Its design was strange, with unnecessary spikes and decorative elements that seemed to serve no practical purpose. The ship was painted with bright, almost garish colors and symbols that reminded Jin of ancient Earth military insignia, but exaggerated to the point of absurdity. "They're hailing us, Captain," said Lieutenant Han, the communications officer. His fingers danced across his console. "Audio and visual." Jin straightened her uniform and nodded. "On screen. Remember, everyone, we represent all of humanity in..." For this moment, the view screen flickered, and the bridge crew collectively held their breath. What appeared before them was nothing like they expected. A tiny alien, no more than 1 meter tall, stood at what appeared to be the command center of their vessel. Its skin was pale blue with pink spots, and its head was disproportionately large for its body. But what drew everyone's attention was the uniform, an absurdly oversized outfit covered in so many medals, ribbons, and decorations that it seemed impossible the small creature could even stand under their weight. Atop its head sat a hat so enormous it appeared to be crushing the alien slowly into the floor. "Greetings, Earth beings," the alien squeaked in surprisingly good English, though with an odd, high-pitched voice that sounded like someone had inhaled helium. "I am Grand Admiral Pock of the mighty and eternal Galactic Empire, ruler of 300 star systems, destroyer of rebellions, and superior being of the 27 galaxies." Jin bit the inside of her cheek hard. Behind her, she heard Science Officer Yoon make a small choking sound. "Greetings, Grand Admiral," Jin managed to reply with admirable steadiness. "I am Captain Jin Su of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. We come in peace and friendship." The tiny admiral puffed out his chest, causing several medals to clink together musically. "Your primitive vessel has entered Imperial space. You shall now witness the traditional greeting ceremony of the Empire, after which you will declare your immediate surrender and eternal loyalty." Before Jin could respond, the view screen widened to show more of the alien bridge. At least 20 similarly small aliens in slightly less ridiculous uniforms began moving in formation. What followed could only be described as a dance routine, one that looked eerily similar to disco moves from 1970s Earth, combined with what appeared to be the Macarena. Lieutenant Han's eyes widened in shock. His hand trembled as he reached for the mute button. Just before pressing it, he locked eyes with the captain, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. The moment the sound cut off, Han doubled over at his station, shoulders shaking with silent laughter. Around the bridge, the professional discipline of Earth's finest explorers crumbled. Science Officer Yoon slid under her console, tears streaming down her face. Navigator Kim stuffed his fist in his mouth. Even the usually stoic Security Chief Park was turning red with the effort of containing his mirth. Jin alone maintained her composure, though the corners of her mouth twitched dangerously. She had faced solar storms and gravity wells without flinching, but this test of her self-control was breaking her. On screen, the aliens continued their performance with deadly seriousness, their tentacles flailing in what they clearly believed was an intimidating display of cultural superiority. One alien in the back seemed to be doing the robot, while another appeared to be attempting a moonwalk with its 6 stubby legs. "Captain," whispered Engineer Lee, who had managed to stop laughing long enough to check his instruments. "They're scanning us, but it's not weapons. They're accessing our cultural database." Jin nodded slightly, understanding dawning. Somehow these aliens had encountered human entertainment broadcasts and completely misunderstood their context. What should have been a terrifying first contact with a galaxy-spanning empire had instead become the most absurd moment in human exploration history. The dance finally ended, with all the aliens striking dramatic poses. Han cautiously restored. Audio. And thus we demonstrate our absolute dominance, Grand Admiral Pock concluded, apparently having been speaking the entire time. Are you suitably awed, Earth creatures? Jin took a deep breath. The future of human-alien relations might depend on her next words. She straightened to her full height, which she now realized must seem quite imposing to these small aliens. Grandy. Admiral, the Earth United Exploration Force is honored by your impressive greeting. We request permission to send a small delegation to your vessel to establish formal diplomatic relations. The tiny admiral seemed pleased, his large eyes blinking rapidly. Permission granted. Prepare to be further amazed by the glory of the Empire. As the transmission ended, the bridge erupted in hastily stifled laughter. Jin allowed herself a small smile. Lieutenant Han, tell the diplomatic team to prepare, she said. And someone find Officer Lee a camera. Something tells me this is just the beginning of a very interesting first contact. Commander Tay adjusted his dress uniform as the shuttle docked with the Imperial flagship. As head of the human delegation, he felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. 4 other crew members accompanied him: Diplomatic Officer Sun, Cultural Specialist Jun, Security Officer Min, and Science Officer Hyun. Each had been selected for their composure, their ability to maintain a straight face in absurd situations. Remember, Tay said quietly as the airlock cycled, no matter what we see in there, we represent Earth. Keep it together. The airlock hissed open to reveal a reception party of 10 small aliens in their ridiculous oversized uniforms. At their center stood Grand Admiral Pock, now wearing an even larger hat with what appeared to be blinking lights around its rim. Welcome to the glory of the Empire, Pock announced, his squeaky voice echoing in the docking bay. You will now be escorted to the Hall of Intimidation for official welcomes. The humans exchanged glances, but followed silently. The interior of the alien ship was even more bizarre than expected. What should have been a practical military vessel was instead decorated like the set of a low-budget space movie. Corridors were unnecessarily wide with dramatic lighting. Random steam vents hissed from the walls for no apparent reason. Blinking lights and buttons covered surfaces that clearly served no function. Their engineering makes no sense, Hyun whispered to Tay. Those control panels aren't connected to anything. The Hall of Intimidation turned out to be a large chamber with a raised platform at one end. The walls were covered with screens showing explosions and battle scenes. As the humans entered, dramatic music began playing. Music that sounded suspiciously like the soundtrack from a popular Earth space adventure film, but slightly off-key. Hundreds of the small aliens filled the room, all standing at what they clearly believed was attention. As Grand Admiral Pock marched to the platform, they all shouted in unison, "To infinity and more distance." Officer Sun's eyes widened as she recognized the mangled catchphrase. She discreetly activated her recording device. A taller alien in a flowing cape approached the humans. "I am Supreme Commander Bok, cousin to the Emperor himself. You will kneel before the might of our armada." Tay bowed respectfully instead. "Thank you for having us aboard. We're interested in learning more about your civilization. First, you must witness our battle demonstration," Supreme Commander Bok announced. He raised one tentacle and a group of aliens moved to the center of the room. What followed was apparently meant to be a display of combat prowess, but looked more like a disorganized dance routine. The aliens struck poses while shouting phrases that made Officer Sun press her lips together tightly. "I will use the Force on you," one alien shouted. "Expecto patronage," yelled another. "Pikachu, I am selecting you," a third declared with menacing intensity. Tay managed to maintain his diplomatic expression, but he could feel June trembling with suppressed laughter beside him. The human exploration vessel Horizon drifted silently through the void, its sleek hull reflecting distant starlight as it mapped the boundaries of known space. On the bridge, Captain Jin Soo stood with perfect posture, her experienced eyes fixed on the main view screen. The Horizon wasn't the biggest ship in Earth's fleet, but it was one of the fastest, designed for deep exploration rather than combat. After the battle demonstration, Supreme Commander Bok led them on a tour of the flagship. The humans quickly realized that despite the comical appearance, the Empire did possess advanced technology. It was just being used in the most inefficient ways possible. "And this," Bok announced proudly, stopping before an enormous weapon that took up an entire deck, "is our planet destroyer cannon. One blast can reduce your primitive worlds to cosmic dust." Science Officer Hyun studied the weapon with genuine interest. "May I ask how it works?" "Simple," squeaked Bok. "When an enemy displeases us, we press the big red button, then the countdown begins. After precisely 3 hours of warnings and alarms to ensure maximum terror, the weapon fires." "You warn your enemies for 3 hours before firing?" Security Officer Min asked incredulously. "Of course. How else would they appreciate the full dramatic impact of their impending doom?" Bok seemed genuinely confused by the question. As the tour continued, the humans were shown to a museum of conquered civilizations. To their shock, an entire section was dedicated to Earth, despite this being humanity's first contact with the Empire. "This is our Earth display," Bok announced proudly. "We have studied your civilization extensively through your transmitted documentaries." The display featured costumes, weapons, and images that the humans recognized from popular science fiction movies and TV shows spanning the last century. Everything was labeled incorrectly. A plastic lightsaber was described as Standard Earth Military Sidearm. Her cardboard starship model was labeled Actual Size Earth Battlecruiser, 1000 scale. "You believe these are real?" asked Tay carefully. "Of course. We have intercepted your transmissions for decades. We know all about your fearsome star. Trek warriors and your deadly Jedi councils." Bok puffed out his chest. "That is why we built our military to be even more impressive." Officer Sun was recording everything, her eyes dancing with barely contained mirth. "And what other Earth documentaries have you studied?" "Many." Bok led them to another display. "We have learned much from your Doctor Who historical archives and your Battlestar Galactica military training videos." By the time the tour ended, the human delegation had pieced together the truth. The mighty Galactic Empire had based their entire civilization on misinterpreted Earth entertainment. Their ships were designed to look impressive rather than function efficiently. Their military protocols were copied from dramatic movie scenes. Their understanding of humans was completely wrong. Back on the shuttle returning to the horizon, the delegation finally allowed themselves to laugh. "Did you get it all?" Tay asked Sun between gasps for air. She nodded, wiping tears from her eyes. "Everything. Their battle cry compilation is already going viral on the ship's network." "The thing is," Hyun said, becoming more serious, "under all that ridiculousness, they do have advanced technology. Those ships could actually do damage if they wanted to." Tay nodded, his laughter subsiding. "That's what worries me. They're playing dress-up as a galactic empire, but they've accidentally built a real one. What happens when they realize we've been laughing at them this whole time?" The shuttle docked with the horizon, where an eager crew awaited their report and the entertainment they'd brought back. None of them realized that the Empire's surveillance systems had been monitoring their reactions the entire time, or that Grand Admiral Pak was beginning to suspect that the humans weren't taking the mighty and eternal Galactic Empire seriously at all. Grand Admiral Q paced back and forth on the bridge of the Imperial flagship, his tiny blue feet barely making a sound on the polished floor. The enormous hat on his head wobbled dangerously with each step. Around him, his senior officers watched nervously. "It makes no sense," he squeaked, slamming a small fist against a control panel. "The humans should be trembling. They should be begging for mercy. Instead, I keep detecting these strange facial expressions whenever we speak to them." Imperial Intelligence Officer Ray approached cautiously, holding a data pad. "Grand Admiral, our facial analysis systems have identified the human expressions as something called suppressed laughter. According to our database, this is a reaction to something called humor during an Imperial intimidation session." Q's eyes bulged with indignation. "Impossible. No species has ever found the Empire funny." He pronounced the last word as if it tasted bad. Meanwhile, on the human vessel horizon, Engineer Ju had been analyzing the scans they'd taken of the Imperial ships. He burst into Captain Jin's ready room, excitement written across his face. "Captain, you need to see this," he said, placing his tablet on her desk. "I've been studying their technology, and there's something weird going on." Jin looked up from her reports. "Weirder than their hats?" "Much weirder," Ju replied, pulling up diagrams. "See, their ships look ridiculous on the outside, but the internal systems are incredibly advanced. The thing is, I don't think the aliens themselves understand how any of it works." He swiped to a new image. "Look at these energy readings. They're using some kind of quantum fold technology that's way beyond what Earth has developed. But when Commander Tay asked them how their engines worked, that admiral just said something about magic space dust and changed the subject." Jin frowned. "So who's actually running their technology?" "That's just it," Ju said, lowering his voice despite being in a secure room. "I detected massive AI systems throughout their ships, super advanced artificial intelligence networks that seem to be running everything. The aliens just push the buttons and take all the credit." Before Jin could respond, Lieutenant Han's voice came over the comm. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Imperial flagship. Grand Admiral Q is demanding to speak with you immediately." Jin sighed. "Put him through to my ready room." The screen on her wall flickered to life, revealing the tiny blue alien. His hat seemed even larger than before, and his expression was thunderous, at least as thunderous as possible for a face that resembled an angry blueberry. "Captain Jin Su," he squeaked. "My intelligence officers inform me that your species has been engaging in humor at the Empire's expense. This is unacceptable. No other species in the known galaxy has dared to find us amusing." Jin maintained her diplomatic composure. "Grand Admiral, I assure you that we have the utmost respect for your civilization. Cultural misunderstandings are common in first contact situations." "Misunderstandings?" Q's voice rose even higher. "Then you deny laughing at our ceremonial battle dance?" Jin chose her words carefully. "Different cultures express respect in different ways, Admiral. Perhaps we could arrange another cultural exchange to better understand each other." Q's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Perhaps a demonstration of our actual power would clear up any misunderstandings. Your delegation is invited to observe a test of our planet destroyer weapon. Then we shall see if humans still find the Empire amusing." After the transmission ended, Jin immediately called her senior officers to the conference room. When she explained the situation, a heavy silence fell over the group. "So they're actually dangerous?" asked Security Chief Park. "Despite the silly hats?" "Engineer Ju thinks so," Jin replied. "Their technology is far more advanced than their behavior would suggest." "It's like giving a toddler the launch codes," muttered Commander Tay. "They don't understand what they have, but they can still push the button." The next day, a small human delegation boarded a shuttle to witness the Empire's weapons demonstration. As they approached a small uninhabited moon that would be the target, Engineer Ju discreetly scanned the Imperial flagship. "Captain," he whispered to Jin, "the energy readings coming from their main weapon are off the charts. If this is what I think it is, they could actually destroy Earth with one shot." Jin's blood ran cold, but she kept her expression neutral as they were led to the observation deck. Grand Admiral Q stood waiting, surrounded by his officers. "Welcome, humans," he announced. "Now you will witness the true might of the Empire. This demonstration will begin with our traditional pre-destruction countdown ceremony." A large screen descended from the ceiling, displaying an elaborate digital countdown clock, adorned with unnecessary skull images and flashing red lights. An automated voice began a dramatic narration. "Beginning countdown sequence, 3 hours until total annihilation. May your pitiful lives flash before your eyes as you contemplate your insignificance." Captain Jin exchanged glances with her officers. 3 hours? Of course, Q said proudly. The extended countdown is a crucial part of our intimidation protocol. It would be pointless to destroy an enemy who didn't have time to fully appreciate their impending doom. As the countdown began its slow progression, Imperial officers brought refreshments and comfortable chairs for the waiting guests. One even distributed small programs listing the phases of the countdown ceremony, including a midpoint lament and final minute despair crescendo. While the aliens were distracted with preparations for the 1-hour musical tribute to Imperial might, Jin pulled Engineer Ju aside. "Is that weapon as powerful as you thought?" she asked quietly. Ju nodded, his face grave. "More powerful, actually. Their AI systems are channeling energy in ways I didn't think were possible. These aliens may act like children playing dress-up, but they're sitting on technology that could wipe out solar systems." Jin looked across the observation deck, where Grand Admiral Q was practicing his victory pose for when the weapon finally fired. Despite his ridiculous appearance, she now understood the danger he represented. "We've made a terrible mistake," she said softly. "We've been laughing at a child holding a loaded gun." "What do we do?" asked Jujin, straightened her uniform. "We stop laughing and start taking them seriously, before they realize we never did in the first place." In the background, the countdown continued its slow march toward demonstration time, while Grand Admiral Q watched the humans with growing suspicion. For the first time, he noticed that none of them were smiling anymore. The mood on the Imperial flagship shifted dramatically after the weapon demonstration. No longer were the small blue aliens treating the humans with enthusiastic, if misguided, hospitality. Now, cold silence filled the corridors as Captain Jin and her team were escorted back to their shuttle. "They know," Jin whispered to Diplomat Min as they walked. "They figured out we weren't taking them seriously." Min nodded slightly. "The way Admiral Q was looking at us during that countdown, I thought he might order our execution right there." Back on the horizon, the senior staff gathered in the conference room. The atmosphere was tense as Jin explained the situation. "We have a serious problem," she said, looking around at her officers. "The Empire has somehow obtained recordings of our crew's reactions to their customs. They know we've been laughing at them." "How bad is it?" asked Commander Tay. Communications Officer Wu cleared his throat nervously. "Very bad, sir. We've intercepted transmissions from their flagship to their homeworld. They're calling an emergency meeting of their war council. The phrases 'human insolence' and 'example must be made' appear frequently." Jin sighed. "So we've accidentally insulted a civilization with the power to destroy planets because we couldn't keep straight faces." "In our defense," said Lieutenant Han, "have you seen the size of their hats?" No one laughed. "We need to fix this," Jin said firmly. "Min, you're our diplomatic expert. How do we explain humor to a species that clearly doesn't understand it?" Ine looked thoughtful. "It's tricky. Humor often relies on shared cultural context. We need to help them understand that laughter isn't always mockery. Sometimes it's a form of connection." Before they could develop a plan, the ship's alarm blared. Lieutenant Han's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, to the bridge!" Multiple Imperial vessels appearing from hyperspace. On the bridge, the main screen showed a terrifying sight. Dozens of Imperial warships had surrounded the horizon, their weapons visibly charging. "Incoming transmission," announced Officer Wu Grand. Admiral Q appeared on screen, his tiny face contorted with rage. Gone was the ridiculous oversized hat, replaced by a sleek helmet that actually fit his head. Even his uniform had changed, less decorative, more functional. "Captain Jinsu," he said, his voice cold despite its high pitch. "The Supreme Council has reviewed our interactions with humanity. You have been classified as an existential threat to Imperial dignity and galactic order." Jin stepped forward. "Admiral, please allow me to explain." "Your explanation is not required," Q interrupted. "For the first time in Imperial history, a species has failed to show proper fear and respect. Others are watching. An example must be made." "Admiral," Diplomat Min said, stepping beside Jin, "there's been a cultural misunderstanding. In human culture, laughter can be a form of appreciation, not disrespect." Q's eyes narrowed. "Our cultural experts have analyzed human behavior. You found our ceremonies ridiculous. You mocked our traditions. You believed us to be, what is the human term?" "Ah, yes, a joke." Min tried again. "Humor is complex, Admiral. Sometimes we laugh at things we find surprising or unexpected, not because we're being disrespectful." "You have 1 Earth hour to prepare your surrender," Q stated flatly. "After that, your vessel will be destroyed as a warning to all who would disrespect the Empire." The transmission cut off. The bridge fell silent. Finally, Engineer Ju spoke. Up. Can we fight them? Security Chief Park shook her head. Not against that many ships. We'd be vaporized before we could fire a single shot. Jin turned to her communications officer. Wu, send a message to Earth. Let them know what's happening. Wu's fingers danced across his console, then suddenly froze. His face drained of color. Captain, we have a problem. Another one? Jin asked. Last night was the crew's weekly comedy night, Wu said, his voice barely above a whisper. The main event was impersonations of Imperial officers. Jin felt her stomach drop. Please tell me you didn't broadcast that. Not intentionally, Wu said, looking miserable. But it seems our entertainment channel was still linked to the communication system after our last cultural exchange. The entire show was transmitted to every ship in the Imperial fleet. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Jin asked, How bad was it? Lieutenant Han winced. The grand finale was Ensign Yu's impression of Admiral Q trying to eat noodles while wearing his ceremonial hat. He used mop strings for the tentacles. We're dead, muttered Security Chief Park. Just then, Wu's console beeped. Captain, I'm picking up unusual communications between Imperial vessels and... This is strange. Several planets that appear to be under Imperial control. What kind of communications? Jin asked. It's hard to translate exactly, but they seem to be questioning orders. And there's something else. Video transmissions of our comedy night are spreading through their network. Fast. They're sharing it, Min asked, surprised. Not just sharing, Wu said, looking up from his console. Based on these transmission patterns, I'd say it's going viral. Another alarm sounded. Imperial vessels are moving, announced Lieutenant Han. They're repositioning. On the screen, the Imperial ships were indeed moving, but not into attack formation. Instead, they seemed to be shifting aimlessly, as if their coordinated effort was breaking down. More transmissions, Wu reported. Coming from at least 5 different species on Imperial-controlled worlds. They're using phrases like, not so mighty now, and saw the humans mocking them. Captain, I think our comedy night just sparked something. Jin understood immediately. A revolution. Species that have been intimidated by the Empire for generations. Just saw someone laugh at their oppressors, and nothing happened. A new transmission came through. This time it wasn't Admiral Q, but a different alien, taller with purple skin and a serious expression. Captain Jin Su, the alien said formally, I am High Chancellor Meek of the Galactic Council. We request an immediate diplomatic conference with Earth representatives. It seems we have much to discuss about the future of the galaxy. As the screen went dark, Jin turned to her crew. Well, she said with the hint of a smile. It looks like humanity just changed the galaxy with a comedy show. Diplomat Min nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a planet destroyer. It's a good joke, finished Jin. The situation had reached a breaking point. High Chancellor Mick's unexpected communication had temporarily paused. Hostilities, but the Imperial fleet still surrounded the horizon, weapons ready. Captain Jin knew this fragile moment wouldn't last. The Empire was in chaos, caught between maintaining their fearsome image and handling the sudden questioning from their subjugated worlds. Jin paced her ready room, searching for a solution. The door chimed, and Diplomat Min entered with Cultural Officer Yoon. Any ideas? Jin asked without preamble. Actually, yes, said Yoon, placing a tablet on Jin's desk. I've been studying their cultural records. Before the Empire formed, their species had a rich tradition of something very similar to humor. It was suppressed when Emperor Locke took power 3 centuries ago. Suppressed laughter for 300 years? Jin asked, incredulous. Min nodded. It explains a lot. Their extreme formality, the obsession with intimidation, they've been denying a fundamental part of their nature. Jin stared out the viewport at the Imperial ships. So deep down, they might actually have a sense of humor. Exactly, said Yoon, but they've been taught it's shameful, a weakness. Jin's eyes lit up. That's it. That's our way out. She tapped her communicator. Bridge, hail the Imperial flagship. I want to speak directly to Grand Admiral Q. Minutes. Later, Q's face appeared on screen, his expression still cold and formal. "You have 15 Earth minutes remaining before we open fire," he stated. Jin stepped forward confidently. "Admiral Q, I wish to invoke the ancient right of cultural challenge." Q's eyes widened slightly, the first genuine reaction they'd seen from him. "How do you know of the cultural challenge? That tradition predates the Empire itself." "We are students of galactic history," Jin improvised smoothly. "According to tradition, when two civilizations reach an impasse, they may resolve it through cultural demonstration rather than warfare." Behind her, Min and the bridge crew maintained neutral expressions, amazed at their captain's boldness. Q seemed flustered. "The cultural challenge has not been invoked in centuries." "Then perhaps it's time," Jin replied. "My challenge is simple. Allow us to present a cultural demonstration to your troops. If we can make your Imperial soldiers laugh, genuinely laugh, at themselves and the universe's absurdities, you will establish peaceful relations with Earth. If we fail, we surrender unconditionally." For a long moment, Q was silent. Then his thin lips curved into what might have been a smile. "You believe you can make Imperial troops laugh? Impossible. Our soldiers undergo strict emotional discipline." "Then you have nothing to fear from." "Accepting our challenge," Jin countered. Q conferred with officers off-screen, then turned back. "The Emperor himself finds your proposal intriguing. The challenge is accepted. You have 6 hours to prepare your demonstration. It will be broadcast to all Imperial ships and worlds." As the transmission ended, Jin's confident expression wavered slightly. "Now what?" asked Lieutenant Han. "We just bet our planet on making the galaxy's most humorless species laugh." "Then we better put on the best show they've ever seen," Jin replied. "Get everyone with any performance experience to the conference room. Now." For the next 6 hours, the horizon became a hive of frenetic activity. The mess hall was converted into a makeshift stage. Crew members wrote skits, practiced routines, and built simple props from available materials. When the appointed time arrived, Jin led a team of 20 crew members to the Imperial flagship. They were escorted to an enormous auditorium filled with thousands of Imperial troops standing in perfect formation, their faces expressionless. At the front, on an elevated platform, sat a large screen showing the Emperor himself, an ancient version of Q's species, watching from the Imperial homeworld. Grand Admiral Q gestured to the stage. "Begin your futile demonstration, humans. The entire Empire is watching." Jin stepped forward, addressing not just the room but the billions watching across Imperial space. "People of the Galactic Empire," she began, "today we offer a gift from Earth culture, the gift of not taking ourselves too seriously." What followed was carefully crafted to break through centuries of emotional suppression. The humans performed skits about the absurdity of power, the comedy of trying to maintain perfect dignity, and the shared ridiculousness of all sentient. Life engineer Ju portrayed a human captain obsessed with protocol, tripping over her own importance. Security Chief Park and Officer Yoon performed a routine about two species meeting for the first time, each misinterpreting the other's customs in increasingly absurd ways. At first, the Imperial audience remained stone-faced, but 20 minutes in, something changed. A small alien in the back made a strange noise, something between a hiccup and a snort. 2 more followed. Grand Admiral Q's head snapped around, looking for the sources of these unauthorized sounds. Then came the breakthrough. Lieutenant Han and Communications Officer Wu performed a skit portraying 2 leaders, one human, one Imperial, each trying to out-dignify the other with increasingly ridiculous hats, until both were wearing towers of objects that reached the ceiling. A ripple of something spread through the crowd, suppressed at first, then growing stronger. It was laughter, starting quiet but building, as if a dam was breaking after centuries of pressure. Grand Admiral Q stood rigid, fighting his own reaction. But when Han's tower of improvised hats collapsed onto Wu, sending both performers sprawling, in a perfect display of physical comedy, Q's control cracked. A small chuckle escaped him, then another. Soon he was doubled over, his formal demeanor shattered. On the screen, Emperor Locke himself sat frozen in shock as his subjects laughed, openly. Then, to everyone's amazement, the ancient ruler's face twitched, his shoulders shook, and for the first time in 300 years, The Emperor laughed, a rusty, creaking sound that grew stronger with each moment. 2 days later, Captain Jin and her officers stood in the Imperial Palace, signing the Earth Empire Friendship Accord. The document included an unusual provision. Earth would provide cultural exchange officers to all Imperial worlds. "You understand what you've done, don't you?" Emperor Locke said to Jin, his voice gentler than anyone could remember. "You've changed the Empire forever." Jin nodded. "Sometimes the strongest civilizations are those that can laugh at themselves. For 3 centuries I believed strength came from fear," the Emperor admitted. "You've shown us a different kind of power." As the Earth delegation prepared to return home, Grand Admiral Q, now wearing a much more sensible hat, approached. "Jin, Captain," he said, his voice still high-pitched but now warm. "Thank you for helping us remember who we once were." Jin smiled. "That's what friends do, Admiral. They help you find yourself when you've forgotten how to laugh."